What is going on, everyone? My name is the California Cougar, and welcome back to another Survivor review. I didn't get one out last week, unfortunately, because, well, work decided to call me in because the person who was supposed to be working that shift ended up calling in sick, so they called me in, and I just couldn't get the review done, so I do apologize for that. Hopefully I'll be able to keep consistent with Wednesday uploads. So, let's talk about Survivor Blood vs. Water. That is the season we are talking about today. And this season has an interesting twist to it in that people are playing with their family members. A lot of people enjoyed this twist, others not as much. For me, I'm going to be honest with you guys. Even though this season overall is positively received, I think Blood vs. Water is incredibly overrated. I was not the biggest fan of this season, if I'm being completely honest with everyone. I did enjoy the pre-merge. I thought the pre-merge was fine. But then the post-merge came along, and that's when it was just it was too predictable. That was the main problem with it. You could tell when everyone was going to go home. Now, this cast is 10 returning players playing against 10 loved ones, basically. And the returning players cast is, well, interesting. I mean, it's not a very conventional cast. So, we'll start off. You got Tyson. Tyson was the guy who would end up winning this season. I did enjoy him this season. And you got to see, the more, serious side of him, rather than, the funny side of him, which is what you got in Tocantins and Heroes versus Villains. You got the troll side of him. He still had that wit to him, but he was a lot more serious this season, especially when it came to his girlfriend, Rachel. Unfortunately, Rachel only lasted a couple of episodes. She was voted out very early on, which is unfortunate. But, I mean, we never really got to see that much of Rachel anyway, so who cares? Then you got Jervis. Jervis was the guy who, he was from Season 1. And, he came back for the first time this season, so yeah, it's about time they brought back someone from Season 1. I do wish they had brought back Greg Buis instead, but, I didn't mind Jervis. Unfortunately, he was kind of disappointing this season. He just didn't really have it all together, I don't think. He was all about, alliance this, alliance that, often berating players who were not in his alliance. So, that was kind of disappointing. And I didn't really care for his niece either. I thought his niece was overdramatic, and she was voted off first. I can understand why she was upset, but wasn't a big fan of her. Monica. We all know why they brought back Monica this season. It was because her husband is a famous NFL player. That's really the only reason I can think of. And her husband was terrible this season. He was trying to be this ringleader of a Five Guys alliance in the pre-merge, and it ended up blowing up in his face because he thought, a couple people in that alliance were just not trustworthy. And, yeah, it just completely blew up in his face. So, yeah, he ended up being very disappointing this season. He had potential, though. I will give him that. Monica, oh my god, she was so annoying this season. I'm sorry. I was like, ugh. The whole time just listening to her talk, not shutting up. She was overdramatic. The best thing she did this season was after an immunity/reward challenge where she won the challenge and decided to give up her reward to the rest of the cast. I was like, okay, that's nice. But of course, I also think it might have been a favor to, I don't know. I don't know if it was because, the mom and her decided to do that, or because she was trying to get jury votes. It was a nice gesture, though, I will say that. So, yeah, Monica, I wasn't a big fan of her, but I don't know. And then up next, you got Tina. Not really sure why they decided to bring Tina back for this season in particular. I do think she should have been brought back for Winners at War, but I don't know. And her daughter wasn't really that great either. She was okay. She did win an immunity challenge, I believe. And then she ended up getting eliminated by her own mother later on. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, and then you have Laura Moret and her daughter Sierra. Now, I will say this. Sierra was probably the player that surprised me the most this season. I wasn't really expecting too much from her. I was like, okay, she's just Laura's daughter. But she came out and really surprised me. She ended up being arguably the best new player this season. She was really good. And yeah, her and Laura were the last couple remaining without being voted out. And then she voted out her own mother. So, yeah, I mean that's what she's known for. She voted out her mom. Yeah, that's what she's most known for. And I enjoyed Sierra this season. She was a good player. She forced the rock draw. That was the highlight of the season, by the way. For her forcing that rock draw, I thought was a really good move. A lot of people like to discredit it because it ultimately cost Sierra the game, but she was going to finish fourth anyway. So, I mean, what was she supposed to do exactly? So I think it was a good move for her. So, yeah, there's that. And then, after that, none of the other players, I mean, I guess you got Aris and his brother. They were fine. They both made it to the merge. They were alright. Who else? Kat and her boyfriend Hayden. Hayden ended up being the better player. I actually liked Hayden a lot this season. He was the one that convinced Sierra to flip her vote and force the rock draw in the first place. And it worked. So yeah, I did enjoy Hayden, and I'd love to see him come back for a later season. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't come back yet. So yeah, overall, enjoyed Hayden quite a bit. And let's see, who else was there? I don't even remember how many other, the other cast members that much. I mean, there was Candace. She was whatever this season. Her husband, John, was alright. Rupert, I mean, the only reason they brought back Rupert so his wife could play. Neither of them were very good this season. They voted off her wife right away, and he ended up taking her spot on Redemption Island, which, again, I will get to that. But, yeah, other than that, not really that impressed with either of them. And then you have a player which I really wish they didn't bring back. I will say this, his partner was fine. His partner was a good player, I think. But Colton Cumbie should not have been brought back on this season. I don't care that his boyfriend was a decent player at the game. Colton Cumbie proved that he is a useless, pathetic Survivor player with his performance in both One World and in this season. He quits the game 2 episodes in because he's a little pussy bitch that can't take any kind of heat. Oh my god. I don't think I've ever seen a player cry and whine and complain as much as Colton has. He was pathetic. And then he quits the game. Good frickin' riddance. Get the hell off my island. So yeah, there's Colton for you. Don't care. Never cared for Colton. Always hated him. And I didn't like him this season either. Jeff brought up and I love that Jeff just totally ripped into him when he decided to quit. That was awesome. He's like, get out of here. You can keep your buff. We'll leave the burning buff thing for people who compete. And then, yeah, they went to that. So, yeah, a couple of cast members were redeemable. And like I said, the rock draw tribal, it was only the second time ever they had forced a rock draw at a tribal council. It was only the second time ever. So I really enjoyed that tribal. It was entertaining. Hayden and Tyson and Jervis basically just going at it. And then Sierra's the woman in the middle who needs to make a decision. She flips the vote, and yeah, that was awesome. She's like, I'm for. I know I'm for. Don't BS with me. I loved that. That was awesome. Hayden and Sierra were definitely the highlights of the newer players this season, for sure. And then Tyson was kind of the highlight of the older cast. But, yeah, I mean, that's really it. And, yeah, I will say the pre-merge was somewhat entertaining with the whole Brad imploding thing. And, like, Caleb turning on him. Brad got rid of John first, and then Caleb eventually turned on him because he found out that Brad was going after him. And it was all because he was tired of taking all the heat from people on Redemption Island. So that was kind of funny. He was kind of a pussy bitch with that as well. But, yeah, I mean, everyone knew him, knew that he was the ringleader. So it was kind of funny. It was somewhat entertaining. But now, that's pretty much all I really liked about this season. There's really not much else that I enjoyed about it. First of all, like I said with Colton, like, why the hell did they bring him back? It was so dumb. He was just a whiner baby back bitch. That's all he was. That's all he's ever been on Survivor. And he's not going to come back in good freaking riddance because he sucks. He's pathetic. So, yeah, glad that they're not going to bring him back ever again. Rest in peace to Caleb, by the way. Caleb unfortunately died in a train, I believe it was some sort of railroad accident. That he was working on a railroad and he ended up getting killed by a train car hitting him or something like that. I don't remember his exact cause of death, but yeah, rest in peace to him. It would have been nice to see him play again because I do think he was a player with potential. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. So rest in peace to him. But yeah, I mean, what really brought this season back for me was all the personal drama. I mean, it's a game of Survivor. And this season kind of proved that I don't think family members should play Survivor with each other because things are just going to get way too personal all the time. And you have people that don't really know each other, they're getting mad at each other because they're voting off their loved ones. Of course, it's a game of Survivor. What do you expect? People get voted off. It's gonna happen. Get over it. You can live for 39 days without each other. So, yeah, that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. Especially with Redemption Island. Why did they bring back Redemption Island this season? I don't understand that. Clearly it was for TV purposes. And I was not a fan of that at all. I never liked Redemption Island. And, with all the drama and all the other unnecessary garbage this season, it just made it difficult to watch at times. And I really wasn't a fan of it. It takes up way too much screen time. They take out reward challenges entirely in favor of Redemption Island, which I've never been a fan of. And, yeah, people are voted out of the game. Why should they get a chance to come back? At least with Edge of Extinction later on, they implemented that a little bit better, I think, because it didn't take quite as much screen time up, but still. Why did they ever have the idea of bringing Redemption Island back? And then the whole family members can take other family members' spot things, that only happened once, I think, and that was with Rupert. Other than that, I don't think they ever took each other. I don't think a family member ever took another family member's spot. I think Hayden was tempted to take Kat's spot, but Kat was I don't know, Kat was so wishy-washy after she was voted off. And, do you want Hayden to take your spot? Do you not want Hayden to take your spot? What is it, girl? So, yeah, I mean, that whole aspect never really played out. John didn't take Candace's spot. No one else took anyone else's spot. So, yeah, that part was very disappointing. And the whole thing with the idol clues and walking down and throwing it in the fire, okay, at first, John and Candace decided to give their clue to Monica, and then Monica was the one that started that trend. She walked it down and threw it in the fire under Brad's commands, basically, trying to put a target on Monica's back. And then that trend just kind of continued throughout the whole rest of the game, basically. I think one person ended up keeping it, and that was it. So, yeah, that was really it. A lot of people just didn't even hesitate to throw the clue in the fire. Like, what's the point of a freaking immunity idol then? Like, go out and, like, they're trying to put a target on your back anyway. People are going to put a target on their back anyway. So, like, why? What's the point of throwing it in the fire? Just keep the damn clue. And then the 39 and a half day thing I thought was interesting. However, then there was that stupid vote. Like, again, votes at the beginning of the game without giving people a chance to play, that leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. It happened in Palau, and then it happened again this season. The only difference was Redemption Island was there. Candace and Rupert were both sent, or Candace and Laura rather, were both voted out, and then Rupert took Laura's spot, and they both went to Redemption Island. Neither of them got a chance to play. And then of course the winner was predictable. I mean, Tyson, yes, he was a good player. He was clearly dominating the season, but you could see him winning from a mile away. Pretty much after the rock draw, he was guaranteed to win the game. Nobody else really had any chance. So, yeah, I mean, Blood versus Water, overall, there's things to enjoy about the season, but in my eyes, it's not one of my favorites. It's probably the second most overrated season behind Heroes vs. Villains for me. In all honesty, I just can't get into it. And every time I rewatch it, I just kind of think the same thing. So yes, there are some enjoyable moments. Sierra, Hayden, and the Rock Draw Tribal Council were obviously historic. Iconic moments in Survivor. But other than that, there really isn't much to talk about in terms of, entertainment. So, I mean, with that being said, I'm going to give Survivor Blood vs. Water a 4 out of 10. Now, I know that score might come as a surprise to some people, but that's just how I feel about the season. I just can't really rewatch it. It's not a season I would ever find myself rewatching by choice or whatever. So, yeah, Blood vs. Water, it's whatever. Who cares? Not a season that I particularly enjoy. So, anyway, what did you guys think of Survivor Blood vs. Water? If you have seen it, let me know down in the comments below what you think of it. And if you enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video. And make sure to subscribe to my channel for more content to come in the future. And as I said, I'm hoping I can get a review out every single week for you guys. That's going to be my goal. If I have to film earlier than Wednesday, then by all means I'll do that. My goal is one video a week. So make sure to stay tuned for more videos to come in the future. And until that next video, once again, my name is the California Cougar. And always remember to stay California cool. Peace.